Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the North Carolina Latino Community Task Force. My name is Marlene Castillo. I am the Community Development Director at a Mexican. It is a pleasure to have you all here with us this morning. We are going to get started. We do have a great guest speaker joining us today while we wait for the rest of the members to join our call. So the purpose of our meeting is to be the voice of the community and advocate across different sectors in North Carolina. We have three main goals. To be a multidisciplinary task force focused on Latino and marginalized issues, to intensively collaborate with local community partners, community members, and federal and state representatives to educate the communities on resources and any up-to-date news. And then lastly, to engage in our role as leaders and have consistency in our work. This morning, we have Philip Triplett, the Volunteer Agency Liaison at the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Division of Emergency Management. Mr. Triplett plays a vital role in fostering relationships between government, voluntary, and faith-based and community organizations to strengthen disaster recovery efforts. He will provide valuable insights on how we can support Latino and marginalized communities in North Carolina during crisis, especially in the areas of disaster preparedness and recovery. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Philip, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. I do appreciate the opportunity to spread the interest and the news that we have about disaster preparation and recovery. Just as a note, we are still working with FEMA to determine if there is possibly any sort of federal declaration we might get from Tropical Storm Debbie. Right now, it doesn't look great because fortunately, we were not hit like several other states were that had some very devastating situations that they're working with FEMA to recover from because of it. The unfortunate side of that is that because of that, there's no federal money currently available. We have 30 days past the disaster declaration FEMA gave us to find enough homes and structures that qualify for individuals and households. But so far that's been sparse to where we haven't been able to find something where it's congregated in one area or something like that to be able to have that. We are looking at the option of a state of North Carolina declaration that is different in that it's by state statute 166A, the governor is able to and empowered to call for a state declaration if we meet the criteria for that, which is much lower, but it still has its qualifications that we haven't yet met that we found, but we still have lots of crews on the ground doing damage assessments to determine where places are that need some assistance, and also working with our volunteer organizations to go to those areas that in North Carolina being their priority, will be working to help people out as best as they're able, though there's currently no outside funding other than what they may be able to offer or some of the other organizations we work with that have funding that's allocated for Tropical Storm Debbie. That's where it gets interesting, and it can get, interesting, not necessarily in a good way, but can be very confusing to everyone, including myself sometimes, as to how certain things work and operate. I guess first, the best thing to do is try to give you an understanding of some differences, basically in recovery with FEMA or with the state of North Carolina recovery section. You have two areas. One is the public assistance section, which people will confuse sometimes being public, being me, the person. It's my damages that I have to my home or where I live or the property that I lost in a disaster. And actually, public assistance is as I like to call it simply, the sidewalks, streets, and sewers of municipalities, communities that have um, water systems, sewage systems, sidewalks, public buildings. One of the things that, in addition, covers that is a whole different area are some private nonprofits and houses of worship. And that really is a whole nother subject that if you would like to have someone come in and talk about houses of worship and the private nonprofits like some museums, um, things like that, that may be eligible for FEMA assistance, then we'll be glad to see about arranging that with you so that you can get more information on it. It's really actually very important, especially for houses of worship and the private nonprofits that may be eligible. There is a portal that public assistance is in charge of where these organizations can go in and see if they qualify in the portal before there's a disaster. And what's important about that is that FEMA has some very strict rules and guidelines as to how you may be eligible. In going into the portal and working with somebody in public assistance, they can determine if you're eligible, and if for some reason you're not eligible for assistance, they can outline what those areas are where you're not eligible and see if we can find someone, some organization that may be able to help you work out the details of that so you can become eligible when a storm hits. It's one of those things, just like with individuals and households, which is individual assistance, which is you and me and our property, our homes. Um, if we have rental property, the contents of our homes, it can include vehicles, it can include funeral expenses, several things like that is different. And one thing that I tell people, the best thing to do is prepare to pass out business cards and phone numbers after a disaster is not the best time to do that. If you can find a way to prepare yourself in some way, shape, or form in your families ahead of time, it makes it much easier when you do request assistance and you fill out the applications for that, for the work to start to help you heal from the disaster than getting started by not really knowing what you do need and what is available in order to recover from it and find the new normal. A lot of people get confused at times over what is offered. It's as some applicants have said, not a lifestyle upgrade or to put you exactly back where you were. Everybody knows the situation with the government and how all that works and finances money and that sort of thing, to where it's actually assistance. The disasters start local, as everyone says, and they end local. And that's why we look for communities to help build them up and to be strong so that neighbor and neighbor, friend is helping friend, and church members are helping church members, club members are doing the same to help each other work through this and to build a stronger community. And that's one of the things that I work hard on in all 100 counties of North Carolina, is to help people understand what's available, what needs to be done to recover from a storm or whatever the disaster might be, and the things that you might need to do, in some cases very simply, just to be ready. And that's what I'm here for, and why I have a job, is to try to help you out with that so that you're able to take care of yourself and your family and friends and neighbors when these disasters happen. Because as we all know, with North Carolina being very hurricane prone and at one time being second behind Florida in hurricanes, They're very nasty and very ugly, and we lose friends and loved ones in the process. We also have tornadoes that cause the same thing. We have flash floods, and fortunately, don't have too many earthquakes. And we haven't had major wildfires in areas like some areas like California, but it is something that we need to all be prepared for as the world gets hotter and things just continue the way they are in nature. When you're talking about these two, I'll explain a little bit what's important to you as individuals and households and communities. When FEMA comes in, there's a lot of areas that North Carolina is very good about starting that some states unfortunately delay doing or choose not to do at all or financially cannot do. Um, an example of that is that Florida now has four federally declared disasters ongoing. And I have several friends that work for FEMA that are just stretched thin working just Florida. And then we have the wildfires and the tropical storm that may be hitting Texas and Louisiana here in the next few days. Florida is so cash strapped in the area of disaster recovery that they don't have the funding to do their disaster case management program because they're already running three in the other disasters before they got this fourth one with Hurricane Debbie or Tropical Storm Debbie that was Hurricane Debbie in Florida. And that's going to make it even more difficult for them to be able to recover. Fortunately, so far, we've not had that issue in North Carolina. The funding has been found by the state to cover programs such as that if FEMA has them to offer, so that we don't suffer or have to find other means to help people through the disaster survivors. The federal aid that is offered typically in a federal disaster is crisis counseling support, where the psychological toll on the families, including the children, is very heavy. It's terrible to see what families go through, and the children a lot of times really are forgotten because of how everybody is working so hard to take care of their property, to take care of each other. Little things may happen. An example of that I was talking about earlier is working in a recovery center in Orange County. There was a family that came in and put down their driver's licenses, which is one of the things we need to see. And they were from Mexico. The parents didn't speak English, but their daughter did, and her little brother was not old enough to really be able to speak English or understand much of it. And what had happened while she was trying to explain their situation so I could fill out the application for them and try to get them some help, the little brother kept pulling on her dress and saying something, not speaking Spanish, that I could understand. And I asked her what the problem was or what was bothering him, because he was obviously very nervous, concerned about his situation or something that was going on. And so she let me know that he was worried that his toys may not be replaced. And she said while her parents and she were putting all their furniture in their apartment up on chairs and trying to raise it as high as possible, he was running around with a garbage bag, filling it with all of the toys he could get his hands on to try to save them. And that was something I was really glad I was able to do, is that I showed them the chart of the items that are covered after a storm, and toys are included. There's a certain amount per child for toys to be replaced. And she relayed that to him, and it was just wonderful to see him doing the happy dance that he was going to be taken care of too. And I was very glad that happened. to shorten that story up, because of the children being U.S. citizens, being born here, we were able to manage a way to get them the financial assistance to help them recover, as well as, because of the situation, their family, their friends, their community helped them put everything back together with what we were able to find with volunteer organizations. So there's so many different ways that we can stay within rules and within boundaries and help people that a lot of others don't really know that we can do unless they come and ask for assistance. The way that it all runs is that we're not out knocking on doors. There's rules, regulations, and all kinds of things like that, to go in and just start gathering information. We can go ask for information, and we can help canvass areas to help in the effort to keep people from falling through the cracks. But it really comes down to getting with us and filling out an application for recovery. And there are lots of things we can do. There are things we cannot do, but that's another piece of what I do in my role, is working with the volunteer organizations that come into an area and help people either do a piece of a roof that needs to be repaired that was damaged during a storm, or completely building a new home for them and elevating it to what the flood levels are predicted to be in that area in the future. So it's a very good thing to do, and having that crisis counseling helps people understand their situation, hopefully help to calm them so they can be more clear headed and focused on what needs to be done and how we can help them get to where they need to be. The other piece of that is disaster case management, like I mentioned with Florida. With North Carolina, with a state and a federal declaration, we do offer disaster case management, and that's a person similar to someone that you might work with as far as a case manager with social services or whatever organization you might have, helping people day to day and month to month. Disaster case management is focused on the disaster, the areas that are a concern that need to be addressed, so that you can work through that with their guidance and help with resources to get to that point to where you're back in a safe and sanitary and functional home. Um, if you're in rental property somewhere else, if the landlord is not able to quickly make repairs to where the apartment or house that you're renting is livable, or if you're in a home that needs to be repaired, to get that taken care of. And that's where disaster case management comes in, that we offer with the state as well as the federal program that we try to bring in, and have usually been very successful with that in bringing in the extra resources from FEMA. There's also disaster unemployment, where there are pieces in place where, if because you work in a restaurant or you work somewhere that is damaged and the business cannot open or it's destroyed, you're suddenly out of income. And we just can't live that way these days. Disaster unemployment can become available to help bridge that gap until you're able to find employment again, just like when you become unemployed for other reasons, companies downsizing, going bankrupt, whatever it might be, that's there. With FEMA, there's housing assistance, where I'm sure that many people have heard about moving from shelters to hotels to maybe another place until your home is repaired, or you can go back to where you live if it's going to be usable like in an apartment. We also have that available in the state where we have people that work in housing that help you find something that's livable and affordable and hopefully in the same area so that your children are not having to cross county lines, go to a different school, or you're having to travel hours to get to and from work. We work very hard to find those places, though housing is a very difficult thing all over the country and especially in North Carolina. We have people that is their job, is to find those places that maybe people haven't looked at or considered that would be usable and would be comfortable enough until we can get you back into your home or something permanent. With FEMA, there's the income tax assistance, where something happens and you're not able to pay your taxes at the time that they're due, that they can work with you on that so that you don't have issues with them with that. There's legal aid, like Legal Aid of North Carolina, that's here a lot of times. And I think I saw her log in earlier to the call. They've done some amazing things with different people that have been in a tight spot where we really were not sure there was a way to find an answer to air property or even wills and some of the things that you have to go through legally. And I've been amazed at what they have been able to do in a state and a federal disaster both to help people out when they have the grant money to do so and put people in a better position than a lot of us, including the survivor, ever thought they might be. So we have some amazing organizations that we work with to have that happen. We have all kinds of other assistance. We have the volunteer organizations that come in that will do what's called the muck and gut and cleaning all the mud and possible mold and mildew issues that can cause some major health issues that we don't want to see, that can be risky to health and to your life. And then we have the ones that come in and do the repairs and do a complete rebuild. There's the voluntary agency liaison support, which is myself, and what we do as far as helping identify those resources, not just in a local or statewide area. We have regional, national, and even international partners that come to North Carolina that want to come here because of how well they are received and how hard they work to help out with things. It's very gratifying to hear from these organizations when I meet with them, even one that I met when I was working in California that talked about coming to North Carolina and how much they enjoyed coming here to help us through disasters because of how they're received compared to other places and the support that they get as they support us in recovery. So there's a lot of those pieces that are available. I do see there in the chat the information in Spanish. We do work on having someone available on the helplines for Spanish. FEMA does have those. North Carolina is continuing to work on building that up. And as Marlene said, yes, on this sheet that she has on the screen for you right now that she has put up in the chat, when you flip it over to the other side, there's the same message in Spanish. We want to make every effort in identifying languages other than English to get to people so that they understand and can comprehend what we're able to do for them, with language at times being the greatest barrier. It's something that we want to try to break that down. And Spanish is, because of the size of the population, is one that we really want to make every effort to have this happen. We have, as part of my role, excuse me, I touch on the community emergency response teams. That's some, excuse me, that's something that we're working on and have started actually training people in Spanish to be in a community and help with emergency response. It's a program that's been well received so far, where we are teaching it in Spanish so you can go back into your community and speak in your native language. The training that's needed for disaster preparation, and after a disaster, what you can do to help the communities. And you can even become a trainer if you would feel the desire to do that. You can take the classes. You would not have to join what they call a CERT team, CERT, but that knowledge that you have can help your family and those around you with what they need to know if you're not in the organized effort. So we don't mind. And last that I heard, the course is at no charge. It's free. And it gives you all the tools and information that's important to know when there's a disaster about to happen, like a hurricane, and what to do afterward to help people and basically save some people's lives because of what you're able to do and what you're taught to do. And there's ongoing training and support for that. It's not taking one class and being done with it. It's something where you can continue to get education on new ideas and new opportunities and ways to accomplish disaster preparation and do the disaster response and recovery in your community. And we're really excited about that, and it's going well so far, and want to spread that all across North Carolina so that everybody, no matter if they speak English or Spanish, have that ability to help each other out, because the state can't obviously be everywhere. And there are admittedly places that you just as soon the state not show up for a lot of reasons that I know are important. And it would be great to have people that are in that area that can relate and work in that community and live in that community to help people out. We do, on the state side, do most all of those same things that you'll see on the sheet there, like the funeral and burial assistance that we may be able to handle, funding for flood insurance. The first bit, it's one of those things that FEMA requires people to do that they're looking at because it has become expensive, but there is that possibility of it being available to provide money for flood insurance for the first year. There's medical and dental expenses that can be covered, repair or replacement of vehicles. I've worked personally in most all these areas one-on-one with survivors, and to be able to get a car repaired or replaced after a storm, not just a hurricane where it may get flooded and it's no longer usable because it has been underwater or water damaged, to get them transportation to be able to continue to go to work without having to rely on something else. There's the temporary housing I mentioned and the rental assistance. Now, at the bottom of this page, you can see how to apply, which in a federal declaration on the left-hand side, there's a website. There's also a mobile app that you can put on your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if it's a Google phone, iPhone, whatever it is. It works on all those platforms and has a lot of really good information on it. And you can actually register that way. But those that aren't able to get onto the internet and go to the website and apply, or you don't have a smartphone, not everybody is able to afford a smartphone, as expensive as they are, even the used ones, there is an 800 number down there that you can call and talk to a person. And when you talk to them, one of the things you need to be sure you do that is very important is that when you complete your application, you'll get an application number. And you should also receive a copy of your application so you'll have that available, and that needs to go with your important papers. When you're working with FEMA, the thing to always have ready is your application number. They can look it up at the call center by other means like social security number and other ways to do it. But the quickest way is to have that number somewhere that you can get your hands on so that you know what it is and can get an idea of what you're eligible for and what additional information and assistance you might be able to get by getting that number. In the state, we have the same thing. We have an email address you can go to give them your information where they can contact you back and fill out an application for state assistance and a state declaration. There's also the phone number that's listed down there that you can call and get a person directly, and from there start working through the process with the state on a disaster. And we also will do just like FEMA, where you can come into a recovery center and sit down one-on-one with someone to go through the application, and they can take as much time as needed to work through your application to be sure that we cover as much on the application as possible so that we don't miss something that you might need later on. We have had people that have later on come back and said, oh, I lost my glasses, or my grandmother needs a wheelchair, or some sort of what they call durable good, or prescriptions. And knowing those is how we can work with our volunteer organizations and our business partners that have become very active to try to meet those needs and get what is needed so that you can continue to live and function as best you can while you go through the recovery process. I used to be in the recovery section, but the director for North Carolina Emergency Management decided that maybe we needed to look at things a bit differently. So I was moved into a new group that's called the Office of Partnership Engagement. And what that does for me and for you is it opens up a door that wasn't always that easy to go through. And in partnership engagement, we have, besides myself as a voluntary agency liaison, working with the private nonprofits and volunteer organizations like Baptist on Mission, Samaritan's Purse, you name it, and we have it. It's amazing the different organizations that pop up that I never thought of as a resource that I find regularly that can help out. The Business Emergency Operations Center, or BEOC, since we all like acronyms, is part of emergency management that are the private sector businesses, if you want to use the big official term. But what they are, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Home Depot, Lowe's, Verizon, AT&T, banking organizations, companies, insurance corporations that are part of the Business Emergency Operations Center. When we're looking for something that is needed in recovery, we can go to them and say, this is what the need is. Is this something that you would be able to supply or find a way to give a discount, whatever it might be, to give a discount to a volunteer organization like the Baptist or United Methodist or whoever. And it's amazing how they've come to realize that it's not just the beginning where you're looking for plywood after a disaster. You're looking for health kits to go into or hygiene kits to go into the shelters so that people will be able to brush their teeth and um, get clean soap, whatever it happens to be in the hygiene kit, water, some of the other essentials that are needed during that response early recovery area, and sometimes get tractor trailer loads of things. It might sound funny, but we actually did have someone that donated a tractor trailer full of toilets, which is very important when you're rebuilding a home and you need a toilet. And somebody gave us a tractor trailer load of free toilets for the volunteer organizations to put in homes that were being rebuilt. So really what it comes down to is it's a whole lot of information. It's a lot to try to comprehend, especially in a disaster. But if you have this sheet, if nothing else, and can get a hold of a hurricane guide, I believe we're currently out, but there are organizations around that I've delivered cases of those in Spanish. There is an electronic version that we can get to people that I gave to Marlene that it's not just hurricane related, but it relates a lot to tornadoes, flooding, a lot of other information that is so important to know, and also how to put together what we call a ready kit, the things that you really should have at home if something happens, like a tornado where it's sudden, you can't really plan for it, so that you're able to have the basic things that you need in order to survive and start through the healing and recovery process. And that's what this sheet is here. We have 2 diaper banks. I'm sure that there are not many people that know that, but that's all they do. There is an international child care service that is available that we can call upon when that's needed, because people are in a shelter, they need to go to work. Where are the children going to go? That's something that's so important that it's not overlooked, it's sometimes not thought of because of the urgency of just trying to get everything put back together, and you get wrapped up into what you're trying to save or what you're trying to put back together for the whole home. And then children are not as high on the list as you might think they would be. So there's all kinds of different areas like that that we can find. There's help for pets. We can set up a shelter if you won't leave the house without your cats, that we can hopefully set up a shelter where you might not be able to have your animal unless it is a service animal, where you might not be able to have it in the shelter with you, but we can put it in a facility literally next door to the shelter so that you can go see and be and take out your animal and your pet and be able to be with it for that comfort that it always brings. No, I would have a terrible time without the dog that I have, that's with me just about all the time. And it's a very good thing. We had a mega shelter in Winston-Salem after Florence, and one of the things we did is that next door to the Joel Coliseum, where a bunch of people, I don't remember how many, were housed, they could bring their animals and they would be at the Dixie Classic Fairground literally next door that could handle a cow or a horse, as well as cats and dogs and other pets that people might have. So we work really hard to make that happen. And it's just one of those things that you have questions or you're trying to figure something out. That's what we're here to do, is to help you with it. And I know it brings up a lot of questions, and we're here to try to either give the answer if we have it, or go find the answer for you to help you search for it. If we can search for it and help support you as you're going through your situation, or you're supporting your family that is going through a situation. That's really what we're here for, as the state, and why I still do this job after 13 years, is to help people find a way to make their life better after a disaster. So I know there's a lot of questions, and I don't know how much time we have for any of those, but I'm always available, and Marlene knows how to get a hold of me, obviously, and be glad to come back and talk more about specific areas, or find someone to come in and talk about the houses of worship and the private nonprofits that may be eligible for disaster assistance with FEMA. Um, I'm sure that if they haven't been on before, that legal aid would do that. Most any of our partners are more than happy to come in and talk about the specific areas that they work to make that happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil, for the great presentation and information that you shared with us this morning. I really do appreciate it. And I really love the stories that you shared as well. It was really heart heart touching. I think that's the proper word. I'm so sorry about the wrong terminology. But we did have a couple of questions. The first one is from Dulce. She says, where can I find information about the training opportunity?
The training opportunities. I don't have that handy, but I can give you contact information on those training opportunities for the community emergency response teams. And we've been successful so far with the ones that have been trained and want to expand that, like I said. So there are a couple of names and contact information that I'll be glad to send to you, that we can get to you, and I'll get those to you today.
Thank you, Phil. And Luz had her hand raised.
Hey, good afternoon. Phil, I don't want to interrupt. I have the information for the next Spanish CERT class. That will be October weekend 19th. I think it's the 18th, 19th, and 20th in Greenville. For anyone who would like to attend, please contact me. I'll be more than happy to send the flyer. Marlene, I actually sent the flyer to Juvencio. I'm not sure if he had shared it, but I can resend it to you. I'm the lead instructor for that class, and if anyone wants to host a class in any other county, I am the point of contact to organize everything. Samantha Royster is the program officer, the program manager for the state, so I work closely with Samantha to coordinate these classes. So yes, I'm gonna put my contact information.
Thank you, Luz.
Yes, thank you, Luz. I saw that you were here, and so I was throwing you that piece so that you could just go ahead and solve the situation rather than me having to get it back to Marlene. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Luz Juvencio did share, and we are actually taking the training here in Greenville, so we will be seeing you. So thank you. So the next question was for me. I have two questions, Phil. So the first one was for the state aid on that, back and front sheet. Is a valid driver's license or citizenship required to apply?
I set that precedent a while back. It's we have to have something that identifies that you lived at that place at the time of the disaster, and that can be a phone bill, electricity bill, um, whatever it might be that has your name and address on it. The photo ID is part of the thing with the driver's license. Um, I told you that I shared the story with you that set the precedent about the people that came in and mentioned them earlier about the Mexican driver's license. They did get financial assistance from the state. It took a little work because it was something that they hadn't really thought of. And um, some people probably will have a party when I retire after I leave. because I seem to find situations like that that need to be addressed and handled. And though they were not citizens, but their children were, they're available for support because we don't want to put any U.S. citizens out on the street. And it did take, as I mentioned, a lot to figure out exactly how to do that since they were all also minors, but it worked. So at least when I was doing the intake, if somebody came up with a driver's license that was not in the United States, a lot of times it ended up with me because I had figured out how to do it. And if there are issues with that, that's something that we would want to know about. Like if you hear about it, Marlene, let me know. And there may be people that are unaware of that precedent that has been documented so that we can help people out that legitimately can be helped. You know, obviously, if there's no one in the household that's a United States citizen, we have to look for other ways, but we don't work with ICE. I have been extremely clear on that with people in the organization as well as outside the organization, that as far as the state of North Carolina is concerned, what we have is personally identifiable information that doesn't get shared with anyone. And it's something that I'm really glad that we do not do so that we can help out everybody that we can. And I could go on forever about that, as you found out on that short phone call you thought we were going to have, but I just don't want people to come up short on information they might need. So if you have a Mexico driver's license, but your children are U.S. citizens, don't be afraid to go up and ask for assistance.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil.
Sure.
My next question was, does the website list all the in-person site locations they can go and apply for assistance?
It does when we have a disaster declaration. That's where it can get sketchy, like in a situation we're in right now. North Carolina is actually helping people with housing. If you call that number on the flyer, the 825-2378 that I set up years ago, there's somebody to answer that phone. If there's not, leave your information on how they can contact you clearly so that they'll be able to do that. And they'll see what might be available as far as housing, for example. There may be other unmet needs. We had one for a washer dryer not long ago. Last week, I think it was, over before Labor Day weekend. Excuse me, that we're working on trying to take care of. So we don't have a disaster, but we do have that phone number and email address where you can contact somebody in individual assistance, especially since we don't have a brick and mortar recovery center that stood up to help people. There may be some counties that have done that on their own. I know in Robeson County, Cassandra Campbell has done a ton with the long-term recovery group there and getting a shelter set up and looking for unmet needs and that sort of thing. But that number you can contact, then you can call that, and whatever county you happen to be in can determine if there's something that's there that you can go to or if it needs to be done by phone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil.
Sure.
I will open it up if anybody else has any additional questions as we wrap up the call this morning. If not, I want to thank you again, Phil, for joining us and sharing this information. I will be sharing the flyers and that brochure with everybody on this call, and as well as your contact information, if that's okay. But
Sure.
with that, I want to say thank you again, and we appreciate you. We'll be in contact. If anything comes up, we know who to contact now. So yeah, so thank you. The next thing we had on the agenda was our upcoming events. So this week we do have Consulado Week. It's going to be from September 10th to 13th. If you guys are interested in still joining us to host a table, you can contact Bianca Perez and I will share her contact information shortly. Each day it's from 9 to 4 p.m. and it's located in at Holly Hill Church and here in Greenville, North Carolina. Our next NC Latino Resource Network meeting will be on Tuesday, September 24th at 11 a.m. and that will be via Zoom. NC Latino Health Alliance meeting will be on September 30th at 11 a.m. via Zoom. And then lastly, we have our Day of the Dead Festival, which will be on Saturday, October 26th from 10 to 4 p.m. If you guys are interested in hosting a table as well, we are open for registration. And I have sent a newsletter out for that, but I'm happy to take your information and share that with Bianca, who's organizing that aspect. This event will be in Wilson County. So yeah, we hope you can join us. If you're not hosting a table, just to come out and see, there's going to be special dances, altars, and different activities for the whole family to enjoy. And then lastly, we have our office will be closed on Monday, September 16th in observance of Mexico Independence Day. So next, I know it's a few of us, but if you guys have any updates, you are more than welcome to share those with us. I will start off on the list. So first I have Luz. Good morning, Luz.
Hey, good morning, Marlene. I do not have a lot of updates besides what I already, the information I provided about the CERT training in your area, Greenville, October 18, 19, and 20th. That's a 3-day training, completely free for anyone who would like to attend. This will be the basic CERT training that allows you to, if you take this training, the next training that you could take is if you want to become an instructor, you can take that one, and that will be in December. This is going to be our first train the trainer training in Spanish in December. So yes, if anyone is interested in taking the one in December, they will have to take the one that we're giving in October. And any questions, my information I added in the chat box.
Thank you, Luz. Next, I have Dr. Brandy.
Hi, everyone. I am with FHLI, and our upcoming Rural Health Association quarterly meeting is going to be actually Friday the 13th from 10 to 2, and that will be at the Yanceyville Municipal Building in Yanceyville, North Carolina. And with our Rural Health Association, we get together with community-based organizations such as yourself and all that are on the call, and we talk about things that are, going on, happening in rural North Carolina across the state. And so at this meeting, we'll hear from the Caswell chapter of the Health Collaborative, the state government affairs team for the North Carolina Rural Health Association, as well as the NC Care 360 team. So Marlene, I can send you that information so you can send that out to our partners on the call.
Yes, please. We would love that. And I will add our email in the chat box as well. And
Perfect. Thank you.
thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course.
Next, I have Leo. Good morning, Leo.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Leo Scarpati from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. No real updates here. Just thanks for consistently bringing great information like our presenters like Bill today and sharing this information with the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Leo. And I will have the team. So I think Rodolfo.
Hi everyone, my name is Rodolfo, and I lead the Advocacy and Civic Engagement Department here at Amaxion. It's a pleasure to it was a pleasure to meet everyone today, and it was a great presentation. And Marlene, if you could fast forward to the next slide. So we do have these upcoming events tomorrow and next week. We are having weekly virtual educational forums in Spanish and English on different topics, bringing in different organizations to network and also educate and inform the community about what's on the ballot and anything voter related for the upcoming elections in November. And so we just wanted to invite everyone to come out. Thank you. And then this is the schedule for the upcoming meetings for the rest of this fall, right before election time. if you have a chance, whether it's in Spanish or English, just to come learn a little bit more about what each organization does to engage with voters and protect the vote.
Hey, can I mention something real quick? Sorry, this is more of a kind of a personal passion and not necessarily a work-related thing, but I just wanted to share that in Charlotte tomorrow, the Latino Civic Engagement Committee here that works to educate voters on getting them out to vote, is working with La Coalición Latinoamericana and Telemundo Charlotte, and we're going to be hosting a debate watch party where we're inviting 20 to 25 Latinos to join us for watching the debate on Telemundo in Spanish simulcast. And we're going to have a discussion and a dinner before, really prodding what are those topics that are of interest to the Latino voters. I think sometimes we hear that from the national media, and it may not always connect with our local communities. So this is something cool that we're trying out. Rodolfo, I'd love to share more information about you once we've passed it. Well, once it's complete, and maybe there's opportunities in the future to collaborate with other organizations, do something similar, as maybe gubernatorial debates are coming up, and highly contested elections. Thanks.
Oh yes, I was just reading up on that right before this meeting. I'll drop my email in the chat. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Thank you, Rodolfo. And again, we will be sharing this in our newsletter, and those will be more consistent. I do have someone who will be supporting me with those send outs. So thank you for being patient with me. And yeah, that's it for us. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you again, Phil, for sharing that presentation. If you are new and you would like to join our newsletter, here's our QR code, and I will be happy to share that in the chat as well. But with that, I hope you guys have a great week. And thank you again for joining. Bye, everyone.